What you're about to watch may sound like a routine policy exchange, but it actually reveals something much deeper about how government works, and sometimes how it fails the very people it's supposed to serve.
Thank you. Senator Padilla.
Thank you. I have a question for Senator Curtis. Has he spent much more time in Utah, or as he has spent in California? I appreciate your attention and support for the improvements in and around the Tijuana River, number one. On another positive note, I want to thank you for having worked with local officials, city and county folks, after the fires in the Los Angeles area last January, both the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. More specifically, they were the largest of the footprints. So the response and the aid in the immediate aftermath was helpful, was good, was necessary. But as you know, there's still disaster aid pending as the communities are trying to rebuild. It's been more than a year. And so I'm wondering if on behalf of the administration, when we might expect that supplemental request for consideration by Congress.
Well, I know, Senator, that there was a meeting that I've heard nothing but positive feedback from both the White House as well as Mayor Bass, County Supervisor Barger. That meeting last week, I would imagine was felt universally as a good conversation to talk about insurance, to talk about banking, and to talk about potential federal aid. Some of this is a request with FEMA that might not require a new act of Congress. Part of this might be CDBG-DR funding that will require. I believe that the OMB director was in that meeting as well. And I also am under the understanding that there's been follow-up conversations as well.
I hate to cut you off. I do want to get to other issues, but yes, sir, do we have a timetable? I mean, are we weeks?
I don't have a timetable. I've been focused on EPA's budget, but I'm happy to continue to help however possible on any front related to the LA rebuild.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now turning to another issue or concern of delays, I want to ask for your assistance in finalizing some long-delayed WIFIA loans for California water projects. As you know, WIFIA was initiated in the first Trump administration when it was thought to be better for taxpayers to support communities and projects in the form of loans as opposed to grants. EPA told at least 3 California applicants, the city of Hayward, Las Virgenes, and Valley Water, that their loans were on track for approval on specific dates between 8 and 12 months ago. And as they were approaching those very specific dates that they were given, they were then notified that their applications were postponed indefinitely. So happy to supply you the specifics behind those applications and those projects, but can I count on you to help me get those WIFIA loans finalized and done?
I am happy to check up on that. I'll be in the office tomorrow, and I'll ask our team what the status is.
I appreciate that. And in the last category, in my couple minutes left, as you know, California is no stranger to polluted air. I grew up with it in Southern California, and I know it firsthand. State and local regulators have done everything they can to bring emissions down in every sector within their jurisdiction. The largest area to tackle here are emission sources that are in federal jurisdiction. So we've been working feverishly to try to get the federal government to do its job, or conversely, allow California to continue to push the envelope, as we were able to do through the waivers granted by the Clean Air Act. Authorities that the state of California had but no longer has because they were taken away by the Republican majority in Congress last year in response to this waiver being declared some sort of rule that could be overturned. We can have the CRA debate separately, but what I want to know is, I guess the bigger picture, just to set the tone here. When you came in, you promised the cleanest air in history. Do you believe the air in Los Angeles, the air across the country, is cleaner than when this administration started?
Yes, I've seen over the course of over the last few decades, the last couple of decades, we have been
just this last year.
Yeah, primarily I would give credit to the advancing technology that we've seen across this country and decisions that private actors have made. We've also started approving state implementation plans that were very much backlogged as well, and I believe that that's also part of that process. I would point out, I know this is an important issue for Senator Kelly and for Senator Curtis, but we took down the guidance on 179B on the international sources of air pollution so that we're not putting an area into non-attainment for sources that are outside of their jurisdiction. California is another example where a lot of the air issues that you're experiencing there are actually coming from international sources. Another topic where even though there might be conflict and disagreement On other aspects and policy approaches, it's another area we might be able to work together.
No, I certainly hope so. There's a whole playbook there: electrification of our port infrastructure, railroad infrastructure, emerging locomotive technologies that we are happy to support. The hydrogen hub in California, the federal government has defunded, while there's been this ample push through the Department of Energy and Department of Interior on fossil fuel sources of electricity, not the renewable sources that California has led on, coupled with battery storage, improving resiliency, bringing down costs, reducing emissions. There's a lot more we can do. We need your support.
In this hearing, Senator Alex Padilla is raising an issue that should be straightforward: disaster aid for communities in Los Angeles that were hit by devastating fires. These aren't abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real neighborhoods, families displaced, small businesses disrupted, entire communities trying to rebuild after crisis. And here's the key point Padilla keeps pressing. It's been more than a year. That timeline is everything, because in disaster recovery, time isn't neutral. Every delay makes rebuilding harder, more expensive, and more emotionally draining for the people affected. Insurance gaps widen. Temporary housing becomes long-term uncertainty. Local governments stretch already thin resources. So when Padilla asks for a timetable, weeks or months, he's not asking a political question. He's asking for clarity that people on the ground desperately need. But listen closely to the response from Lee Zeldin. What you hear is something very familiar in Washington: acknowledgement of meetings, references to ongoing conversations, mentions of different funding mechanisms, but no clear timeline. And that absence matters, because when leaders can't say when help is coming, it sends a signal that urgency isn't matching the scale of the crisis. From a democratic perspective, this is where the role of government becomes very clear. It's not enough to respond quickly in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, though that's important. The real test is whether the federal government stays engaged through the long recovery process, whether it delivers sustained support, not just initial relief, and whether it treats rebuilding not as a bureaucratic process, but as a human one. Padilla doesn't stop there. He pivots to another set of delays: federal water infrastructure loans that were supposedly on track, only to be postponed indefinitely. And again, this isn't just policy detail. These projects affect water systems, public health, and long-term resilience. When approvals stall without explanation, it creates uncertainty for entire regions trying to plan their future. What ties all of this together is a pattern: promises made, timelines suggested, and then delays without accountability. That's what Padilla is trying to cut through. He's not just asking for updates, he's demanding follow-through. Then the conversation shifts to air quality, and this is where it becomes even more instructive. Padilla brings lived experience into the discussion, talking about growing up with polluted air in Southern California. That's important, because it grounds the policy debate in reality. Clean air isn't theoretical, it's about health, about children growing up without respiratory issues, about communities that have historically borne the brunt of environmental harm. When he asks whether the air is actually cleaner under the current administration, he's doing something critical: separating rhetoric from measurable outcomes. It's easy for any administration to claim progress. It's harder to demonstrate it in a way that aligns with what people are actually experiencing. And notice another key theme Padilla raises: the tension between state innovation and federal authority. California has often pushed ahead with aggressive environmental policies, using tools like Clean Air Act waivers. But when those tools are taken away or limited, it raises a fundamental question: should states be allowed to lead when the federal government falls short? That's a core democratic argument, that progress often comes from empowering states and local governments to go further, especially on issues like climate, clean energy, and public health. When those efforts are blocked or slowed, it doesn't just delay policy, it delays real-world improvements in people's lives. What makes this exchange so important is that it connects multiple issues: disaster recovery, infrastructure, environmental policy, through a single lens: responsiveness. Is the government moving fast enough? Is it prioritizing the right things? And is it being transparent about what it's doing? Because at the end of the day, accountability isn't just about showing up to hearings. It's about delivering results that people can see and feel. As you watch this, think about what effective leadership should look like in moments like these. Should communities have to wait over a year for clarity on disaster aid? Should critical infrastructure projects be left in limbo? Should progress on clean air depend on political back and forth instead of urgent action? These are the questions that don't end when the hearing adjourns. They carry over into people's daily lives. If you care about government that follows through, about leaders who push for answers instead of accepting delays, and about policies that actually improve people's lives, stay engaged, subscribe, share this video, and keep paying attention, because real accountability only happens when the public is watching.